Good afternoon. Thank you, Bob. Welcome to the first quarter awards for 2018, and if you'd all please rise. Before we start the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to take a moment of silence in memory of Deputy William Gentry from Highlands County, and we're getting ready to go into Police Memorial Week, so we can think of our own Donnie Mahan and all the other brave officers that have given their lives. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we get started, I want to thank Vice Mayor Shannon Martin for joining us here. She's always an avid supporter of the police department and everything we do. Thank you, ma'am. And without further ado, let's get started with the service citations.
Sounds good. For 5 years, we have Janet Monroe, the court liaison, and Michelle Wentz, crime analyst. Come on down.
Come over here, Jim.
Oh.
Gus is here.
With 10 years with the agency, Officer Al Riccardi and Patricia Rizzo Babcock. "15 years with the agency, Sergeant Lisa Carasquillo, Canine Officer Will Harris, Officer Russ Jackson, Officer Scott Johnson, and Teresa Owen. "20 years with the agency, Sergeant Mark Bowles, Officer Jerry Roberts, and Officer Renee Shirley. And for 30 years with the agency, Sergeant Rick Schichtel. Next are the certifications in the Career Ladder Program. And moving up to Senior Sergeant, we have a few of them. Sergeant Lisa Carasquillo, Sergeant Robert Fontaine, Sergeant Terry Henkel, Sergeant Brian Kenny, Detective Sergeant Aaron Martin, Detective Sergeant Joe Norkus, and Sergeant Matt Peterzak.
It's upside down. No, I'm kidding. All right, 3, 2, 1.
For Master Police Officer, we have Officer Jennifer DiMatteo Bennett, Officer Scott Johnson, Officer Chris Neidl, Officer James Olson, and Officer Rob Steinkraus.
I don't get one.
All right, ready? All right, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Police Officer 2, Canine Officer Eugene Robbie Gibbons. No? Okay. And Police Officer 1, Detective John Delacroce, Officer Mike Connor, Officer Sandra Nswaste, and Officer Jeremy Lewis.
Ready? And 3, 2, 1.
Next is the Educational Achievement Awards. We have Sergeant Robert Fontaine, who received his Associate's in Science degree in Criminal Justice, Officer James Luongo for receiving his Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration, Officer Ricky Yeba, who received his Associate's in Science degree in Criminal Justice Technology.
Nobody wants to stand there.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, just a piece of paper, man. That's what college is all about.
Next is a letter of recognition for one of our outstanding citizens of Port St. Lucie, Mr. James Ernie. Is James here? Mr. Ernie, back on Saturday, November 25th, 2017, you were fishing in the area of the North Fork of the St. Lucie River, marker 32, when you observed a boating accident. A man was operating a vessel with 5 passengers traveling northbound on the river when it struck a submerged log and a concrete channel marker. Several of the passengers were ejected from the collision and some were unable to swim. One female was seriously injured with a compound leg fracture. You were able to recover her from the water, bring her aboard your vessel, and transport her to the River Park Marina, where you were met with rescue. Rescue then transported her to the hospital for her non-life-threatening injuries. Without your quick actions, several lives likely would have been lost that day. Again, we appreciate your selfless act to assist a fellow human being. Thank you so much. Next is a dignitary protection detail. That's for Lieutenant Michelle Steele, Sergeant Rob McGee, Sergeant Rick Schichtel, Officer Trevor Horton, Officer Russ Jackson, Officer Rob Loop, Officer Dan Papaleo, Officer Joe Chamberlain, Officer Suzanne Moore Fleites, Officer Don Paris, Officer Josh Pito, Officer Terry Russell, Officer Robert Votlin, Debbie Decker, who's a civilian traffic investigator, and Anna Nunes, another civilian traffic investigator. On Tuesday, March 20th, 2018, the City of Port St. Lucie hosted an event for the Copus Veterans Nursing Home groundbreaking. This event was attended by more than 300 individuals. In attendance was Governor Rick Scott. Coordinating the event entailed a detailed security plan for the governor, including contacting outside law enforcement agencies, other city departments, and controlling the crowd security. The personnel on scene were required to liaise with the governor's personal security detail, as well as the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The event took place in 2 separate locations, which required coordination with multiple officers at these locations. The first was an outdoor area which required constant awareness of the surrounding roadways due to the location. The governor and other dignitaries, including federal and state congresspersons, as well as city officials, not only had to be protected while speaking, but also while crossing a 4-lane roadway to the groundbreaking site. The governor then left the first location, was escorted to another area where he gave a speech and presented medals to military veterans. During this time, PSL PD personnel ensured Governor Scott's safety until he left the city. And it's for this reason you're being awarded the Dignitary Protection Detail Citation. Thank you.
I was remiss earlier in not recognizing City Councilwoman Stephanie Morgan is also with us. Thank you.
Next, we have a unit citation for an event that happened out on St. James Drive, a shoplifter in progress. We need Sergeant Rick Schichtel, Acting Sergeant Colin Duncombe, and K-9 Zoran, Officer Clayton Baldwin, Officer Nelson Ojeda, Officer Dominic Sabachev, and Officer Jean Bello Valentin. Come on down. Okay. On January 20th, 2018, while Sergeant Schichtel was performing a Special Olympics fundraiser at the St. James Publix, he was informed of a felony shoplifting in progress. As Sergeant Schichtel approached the subject, leaping into action, a foot chase ensued, which led across the street into the Oxbow Center. The suspect jumped over the fence at the Oxbow Center and fled into the woods. Responding officers Baldwin, Ojeda, Sabachev, and Valentin set a perimeter, and Acting Sergeant Duncan and K-9 Zoran responded. At the end of the successful track, the subject was found hiding in the woods, where he was subsequently bit by K-9 Zoran as he resisted apprehension. The combined team effort of all the officers involved allowed this in-progress incident to be resolved with a successful felony arrest. Great work, everybody. Now we have another unit citation for an incident that happened on Hatches Harbor Road. Detective Wade Wilnow, Officer Clayton Baldwin, Officer Fatima Barrera, Officer Joe Casaniti, Officer Tim Herring, Officer Julia Tranberg, and Officer Andrew Zamfino. No, they're all on midnight shift, so they're all in bed sleeping right now. Except for Wade, he was sleeping in the back. That's what took him so long to get here. Back on January 18th, 2018, while officers were finishing an unrelated call in St. Andrews Point Apartments, they observed a traffic violation on a suspicious vehicle. They immediately pulled in behind the vehicle and ran the tag, which came back stolen out of Doral, Florida. A felony stop was initiated. The suspect vehicle initially stopped, but sped away as officers were giving him verbal commands. A pursuit was not initiated, but officers did start canvassing the side streets in the immediate area. They located the vehicle. It was empty, and a perimeter was set. A St. Lucie, a St. Lucie County Sheriff's deputy who was assisting stopped 2 suspicious males a few blocks away. Our officers responded to this location to take over the investigation. The suspects were from the Miami area and were being evasive about why they were in Port St. Lucie. During the course of the investigation, it was learned that the stolen vehicle was used in a retail theft earlier in the day. Officers responded to that location obtained the video, which tied those suspects to the stolen vehicle and the retail theft. Detective Will now then responded for interviews. Got a confession. Good job, Wade. Due to your excellent teamwork, these two suspects were apprehended and are awaiting trial. Great job. Good drink of water. We have another unit citation for the Special Investigations Division. Detective Sergeant Kevin Kaminsky, Detective Joe Alves, Detective Kim Bailey, Detective Paul Knowles, Detective Robert O'Hara, Detective Robert Perkins, Detective John Scudieri, Detective Ben Thayer, Detective Erica Venazio, Detective Carlos Waldron, Officer Tricia Wards, and Admin Assistant Arlene Arnold. During the first quarter of 2018, detectives in the Special Investigations Division have worked countless hours of tenacious work. The SID detectives have executed 17 successful search warrants and conducted 15 drug transactions, which has led to the arrest of 40 individuals on well over 150 combined charges. In addition, detectives seized over 200 prescription pills, an ounce of raw cocaine, 25 heroin and fentanyl capsules, nearly 1,100 pounds of marijuana, 16 illegal guns, and nearly $30,000 in U.S. currency. It's due to their great teamwork, dedication, and investigative skills that allowed them to apprehend these felons and keep the citizens of Port St. Lucie safe and drug-free. Great work, everybody.
I really wanted to describe that crew, and I couldn't come up with any word that did, so.
Don't worry, in the picture, they're all going to be blurred out anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Administrative Excellence Award for Lisa Smith, Purchasing Supervisor. Lisa, based upon a nomination submitted by Melissa Jungjahan, Office Manager, you've been awarded the Administrative Excellence Award for the first quarter of 2018 for your continued hard work and dedication within the Purchasing Division. In February of 2018, you volunteered to assist an employee who works in the city's MIS while she took bereavement leave to grieve for the loss of her daughter. You willingly took on various purchasing assignments in that department, as well as assisted management in that department with interviewing potential candidates for a vacant buyer position. You continued to complete your assigned tasks here at the police department and never thought twice about helping a person in need. You always go the extra mile to assist anyone with a pleasant demeanor, and you're a genuine asset to our department as well as to the city as a whole. It's because of your unwavering assistance to others that you've been selected to receive an Administrative Excellence Award. Great work. Next is a commendation citation, Detective Brian Boyce and Officer Chris Neidl. On March 27, 2018, Detective Boyce was assigned to a construction theft series that involved the theft of appliances. The series consisted of 3 residential burglaries of homes that were either under construction or left vacant, and the appliances had been stolen. Detective Boyce jumped right in and completed a secondary canvass of the neighborhoods in which the crimes were located. He was able to locate a video surveillance footage at 2 different locations showing the same vehicle driving through the area. In one of the videos, it showed the vehicle backed up to a vacant home, and that vehicle later leaves with a refrigerator hanging out the rear hatchback. That's called a clue. Detective Boyce obtained still photographs of the vehicle and immediately distributed them to patrol officers, hoping the suspects lived near the location where the crime occurred. Officer Neidl, who frequently worked the area, looked at the vehicle and realized he had seen the same car parked in the driveway of Southwest Belmont Circle. Detective Boyce researched the address and learned who resided at the home. He confirmed the resident owned a similar vehicle and that he was currently under investigation for multiple grand thefts from Walmart. Detective Boyce went to the suspect's residence and confronted him with the video surveillance footage. The man admitted that he committed 2 of the burglaries in the series. Based upon Detective Boyce's and Officer Neidel's coordination and quick response, this series was resolved swiftly, and the suspect was taken off the streets, preventing countless other burglaries. In addition, these cases received real positive media attention. Congratulations on an outstanding job. Commendation citation for Sergeant Robert Fontaine and Officer Cherie Lucas. During the time frame of December 21st, 2017 through February 7th, 2018, the city's experienced a series of smash-and-grab vehicle burglaries at locals' gyms, parks, and business parking lots. Each district sergeant was tasked with having their officers conduct directed patrols during their uncommitted time. Officers across the city conducted close patrols looking for any suspicious persons, vehicles, and to identify possible crime opportunities. Officer Cherie Lucas worked tirelessly to patrol and identify potential crime opportunities in her district. Officer Lucas identified and distributed 91 crime opportunity cards, which identified unsecured personal property like purses, bags, and other valuable items left in plain view inside the vehicles. Her proactive work no doubt helped to prevent future vehicle burglaries within her assigned area. Sergeant Fontaine's emphasis on proactivity within his district was evident as Officer Lucas worked hard to locate, document, and make contact with 91 potential victims of vehicle burglaries. Sergeant Fontaine encouraged and created an environment where his squad could perform efficiently and with clear direction. Sergeant Fontaine led by example by taking ownership of patterns in his assigned district and inspiring others to do the same. It's for these reasons both Officer Lucas and Sergeant Fontaine are receiving a commendation citation for their efforts to reduce vehicle burglaries within District 1. Great work. Commendation citation for a suicide threat on the St. Lucie West Turnpike Bridge, Officer Matt Aubert. On January 30th, 2018, units were called to St. Lucie West Boulevard at the Turnpike Bridge in reference to an adult male threatening to jump off the bridge. Upon arrival, officers observed the male standing on the edge of a chain-link fence armed with a knife, all the while jumping up and down on the fence. Officer Aubert made several attempts to speak with the subject, while other officers established a perimeter. The subject then jumped off the overpass and began running from officers. Officer Aubert pursued him, apprehended him, and safely took him into custody. It's for your diligence in securely detaining this subject that you're being awarded a commendation citation. Great job, Matt. Commendation citation for Officer Joe Byrne. In March 2018, Joe, you received information regarding a subject who was attempting to obtain employment from the city utilizing veterans preference. City administrators believe that the subject may not have been accurately representing his military service and contacted you to assist. You examined the subject's DD-214, his military discharge papers, and discovered numerous inconsistencies that would correlate with his time in the service, as well as many military awards that did not appear to be warranted by the subject. You conducted a thorough investigation with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, as well as the U.S. Department of Defense, and learned that the subject had never even been in the U.S. military. It was further learned that the subject had fraudulently obtained a license plate through the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, which identified him as a recipient of a Purple Heart. The subject had also obtained numerous benefits fraudulently through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and was portraying himself as a retired U.S. Army First Sergeant. It's for the above listed reasons you're being awarded a commendation citation. Great case, Joe. Great work. Life-saving citation for Sergeant Jesse Inigo, Officer Clayton Baldwin, Officer Jamie Byrne, Officer Martin Gobriel, Officer Antroniana Holliday, and Officer Stuart Clearman. On February 23, 2018, officers were dispatched to a suicidal subject threatening to shoot himself. Officers observed an adult male sitting on the front porch armed with a shotgun, threatening to commit suicide. Prior to making contact with him, a perimeter was established and roles were determined. Initial communications met with negative results as the man was unwilling to drop the shotgun. While officers negotiated with him, others gathered detailed information from his spouse, which provided officers insight into his mindset. His demeanor was one of anger and agitation, where he would continuously threaten to pull the trigger regardless of these officers' efforts. At times, he would begin to breathe heavy and insert the muzzle of the shotgun into his mouth, seemingly trying to build the courage to pull the trigger. During this action, an hour-long standoff ensued. His instability and unpredictability created a safety concern for the community around him. While the scene was contained, communications continued, and a promising dialogue began to be established. It was ultimately determined that the subject and his spouse were having marital problems. Officers were relentless in their efforts, and ultimately the subject surrendered his shotgun and was taken into custody for mental evaluation. If not for each of your individual efforts, it's likely that this subject would have gone through with the act and committed suicide. Collectively, your efforts resulted in a successful and peaceful resolution where a life was saved. Excellent work. Volunteer of the first quarter, Alan Rokow. Did I say that right, Alan? Rokow. I'll stick with Alan. Alan, based upon a nomination submitted by Tom Andrew, you've been selected as a volunteer of the first quarter for 2018. You've been a volunteer since March 2012, and you're currently volunteering for the Sandpiper Bay Community Patrol. As you patrol Sandpiper Bay, you're the eyes and ears of the police department. You volunteer many hours per month with Sandpiper Bay, consistently being at the top of your list, and you're always available when needed. You're a conscientious and dedicated member of our volunteer program, and we're very fortunate to have you with us. It's for these reasons and many more you're being awarded the Volunteer of the First Quarter for 2018. Thank you. Civilian of the first quarter, Tom Ruther, Crime Prevention Specialist. Tommy, based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Rick Schichtel, you've been awarded the Civilian of the First Quarter for your outstanding work ethics and attention to detail. After taking over the role of Crime Prevention Specialist, you hit the ground running and immediately took over various functions, such as sending out pack alerts, Alert St. Lucie notifications, and other daily tasks. You pursued training to obtain proficiency in your position, completing training in basic crime prevention, residential crime prevention, and commercial crime prevention. And you now can be certified as a crime prevention practitioner, which expands the services you provide to our community. Once you received the residential certification, you immediately began making home visits and completing residential crime prevention surveys, assisting citizens in making their homes safer against crime. You developed numerous PowerPoint presentations for different audiences, from teaching Eddie Eagle gun safety to children, fraud prevention to senior communities, and workplace safety to businesses throughout the city. Due to your hard work on educating the public, numerous letters and emails have been received by the department expressing their gratitude. You're always willing to assist on division projects such as Tip a Cop for Special Olympics and numerous weekend events where you set up a crime prevention table and tent. Currently, you're working on a comprehensive plan to combat a new series of construction site burglaries in which appliances are being targeted. You're working with the Treasure Coast Builders Association to get crime prevention messages to contractors, working with the building department to increase Partners Against Crime, or PAC, enrollment, and you created a crime prevention flyer to educate builders on ways to combat these type of thefts. It's for these reasons and more you're being awarded the Civilian of the First Quarter 2018. Great work, Tommy. Detective of the Quarter, Detective Bob O'Hara, SID. Bob, based on a nomination received from Detective Sergeant Terry Henkel, you've been chosen as Detective of the First Quarter for 2018. In November of 2017, you transitioned to the Special Investigations Division with no experience in narcotics investigations. However, by the end of this quarter, you've become the heart and soul of the unit. You define the term team player, and your eagerness to learn and devotion to assist your fellow detectives have catapulted the division to amazing success this quarter. You put in countless hours working on your own cases, as well as assisting other detectives on early morning and late night operations for the betterment of the whole unit. In addition to your tremendous work ethic, your engaging personality and team-first attitude has spread throughout the division and spawned a new level of teamwork and accomplishment that makes each member of SID more successful. Along with the intangible qualities you've demonstrated, your production has been beyond exceptional. Who's laughing? Your first assisted SID case resulted in the disruption of a prostitution ring being run from a massage parlor. As a new SID detective, you were able to work in an undercover capacity, infiltrate, and effect the arrest of the target suspect. While conducting surveillance on a complainant address, you observed an unrelated vehicle operated by a known offender driving suspiciously. You stopped the vehicle and arrested the suspect with marijuana, packaged for distribution, and a loaded gun. In this quarter alone, you authored and executed 3 search warrants and effected the arrest of 12 persons on over 20 charges, recovered marijuana, cocaine, prescription pills, and guns. You are an instant asset to the Special Investigations Division. As demonstrated by your dedication to helping your fellow detectives, your devotion to this assignment and performance in the field has made a lasting impact on the camaraderie and production of SID. Congratulations on a job well done. And next is the officer of the first quarter, Officer Scott, the real deal Mariel. Scott, based on a nomination submitted by Sergeant Rod Dobler, you've been selected as officer of the first quarter for 2018. In Sergeant Dobler's nomination, he describes you as a consistent, dependable, and more than capable of handling any situation that arises. You are quietly motivational towards your peers and trainees. You thoroughly enjoy police work, and it shows on a daily basis. You're admired by many younger officers, as well as officers who've been with the department for many years. You believe in not just doing the right thing, but you can always be counted on to complete any task that has been assigned to you. Your enthusiasm for the job shines through every day in your consistency, knowledge of the job, as well as how professionally you handle the wide variety of tasks you're given daily. You understand what this agency is looking for, and you provide exceptional service to the community. Currently, you're assigned as a UCI, and you always conduct effective investigations, and you pride yourself on working many cases on your own. You follow up on calls, and you consistently close many of those cases. You're able to see the big picture, and you can easily establish a rapport with a wide variety of people. Because of your demeanor, you put people at ease. Every day you bring a claim to the Port St. Lucie Police Department by exemplifying the excellence of a Port St. Lucie police officer. It is because of these above reasons and many more you're being awarded Officer of the Quarter for 2018. Great work, Scott.
So as we roll into Police Memorial Week next week, I think it's really important that we pause and reflect on what we do for a living and what's on the line. But more important than that, it's the service that you all give this community, from our volunteers to civilians who've spent many, many years behind a badge to two outstanding officers, well, an officer and a detective. When you go through and you read these nominations, it can't help but just cause pause to think what this community would be like if you all weren't so dedicated to the safety of our citizens. So from me to you, thank you. Every quarter we stop and we do this, and it kind of smooths out the bumps along the way about what this is all about and what it means. So thank you. So going forward, we got a lot of events coming up. We have the memorial service. That's Monday morning, right? Yeah, Monday morning in front of the police department. Wednesday is a very special day. The Treasure Coast Leo Wives are doing breakfast and lunch, or what do you call that, supper, that kind of mid-afternoon in the Sallyport. There's going to be an omelet bar. I'm going off my diet for that. Also, we have the countywide memorial service Thursday night. And if you've never been to that, I would highly encourage you to go to that, where all the agencies come together and recognize the fallen from the county. So this concludes our ceremony. Please join us back at the police department for refreshments. Lisa assures me that the coffee is going to be the perfect temperature this time, and we'd love to have some fellowship. So thank you.